All right, let's talk about chromosome duplication. In other words, we are making a copy of DNA. Okay, copy of your DNA. And this has to happen, obviously, before cell division. So this happens prior cell division. So chromosomes contain the instructions to run the cell. And this is very important. And as we know that the DNA is a molecule that has the instructions to make something called proteins. And proteins pretty much do everything. All right, so proteins, we have proteins for transportation purposes. When you contract, you move, you work out, those are proteins that are doing the contraction. um, Red blood cells carry oxygen from one place to another via using a protein like hemoglobin. So proteins kind of do everything that a cell needs to do to survive in a way. Okay, so in a simple way. So before cell division, a cell duplicates or makes a copy of its DNA, of its chromosomes. And that's because instructions have to be passed on. Instructions must be passed on to daughter cells. All right, let's focus on my little diagram here. It's a very, very simple depiction of what happens. Okay, this is not really real because there's no cell that has only one chromosome. So this is just so you can see, okay, how chromosomes are duplicated. So we start with one chromosome, okay, which is this one. And then we're going to go through something called chromosome duplication, which is the same thing as DNA replication. In other words, we're making a copy of the DNA. What happens, what's the result of this is going to be this. This is going to get a little tricky because what you see here is kind of two DNAs, right? But they're still together. So this is still considered one chromosome. And I know that because there is something over here called a centromere. Okay, and a centromere is going to hold two sister chromatids. Centromere, that's a centromere over here, okay, and holds two sister chromatids. Okay, and before I move on, well, what is this sister chromatids? So after DNA replication, what happens is you end up with one DNA or one chromosome, but you end up having two sister chromatids. What are these? These are identical copies of DNA. Identical copies of DNA. All right, they're gonna have the same genes. Okay, so what you see here is this one chromosome, but this is gonna be a duplicated chromosome. So this is a duplicated chromosome. However, it is still just one because they're both attached to each other by a centromere. Okay, the centromere is going to hold two sister chromatids together, still counts as one chromosome. And if you ever want to count the number of chromosomes, count the number of centromeres. Okay, and then eventually what happens here, this is going to be cell division. I'm going to change colors so you can have some contrast here. So there, this is going to be cell division. And during cell division, we're going to end up with, and let me see if I don't make this too complicated. I'm going to go here and draw you this, okay? That means this is going to be one cell. And it splits into, we're going to be eventually making two cells. So two cells, okay? To be more precise, let me call them two daughter cells, Okay, but each daughter cell, guess what? It has now a copy of the DNA. So I'm going to put this over here. Now we have here two chromosomes, one in each cell. Okay, so I'm going to put here as a cell divides, as cell divides, as cell divides, sister chromatids are going to separate. Sister chromatids separate. Okay, and now you end up having two full chromosomes or complete chromosomes. Okay, and they're both going to be identical. I'm going to put here identical. Sorry, I'm running to the corner of this slide. But, and then once we have two chromosomes, two full chromosomes, they can then be split. So we end up with two daughter cells. Okay, two daughter cells. Okay, two identical daughter cells. Why? Because each of the cell has a copy, the same copy of the DNA as that of the parent cell. So remember, from this picture, what happens is this: before cell division can happen, okay, we need to duplicate the DNA. That way, both daughter cells end up having the same amount of DNA in each of the cells.